Hey folks, thanks for tuning in to Death to the Review. I'm your host today, Joel Mungen, and I'm going to be talking about Isaac Hill's new album, Allegheny Elegies. Isaac is in this great progressive folk band from Pennsylvania called The Hills and the Rivers. They categorize themselves as post-apocalyptic river folk, which is a very apt description for the type of the school of folk music that they play. I would describe them as like Elephant Revival meets the Incredible String Band. There's something very modern to their sound, but at the same time also something very timeless, something almost ancient. If you've never checked them out before, their last record was The Fool and the Magician from 2018. I highly recommend it. But Isaac's solo record is a pretty significant departure from that sound. Where The Hills and the Rivers are a full band, and it's got octave mandolin and upright bass and fiddle and washboard and vocal harmonies. This record is primarily just a nylon string guitar and a vocal. The octave mandolin makes an occasional appearance. So it's a very simple soundscape, but also in the periphery you have this cathedral reverb. And I think what that does for the listener is it kind of makes it sound more timeless, which is appropriate because this is an album that asks a lot of existential questions that I think are timeless. The theme of this album, I would argue, is how to find one's sense of purpose, how to make sense of being alive, how to make sense of the time that we're given on this earth, and how to honor that time in a way. Lyrically, we do a lot of exploration in this album. Track 1, which is called Nothin' Doin', starts off, "In the seasons of my youth, I have fought to find the truth. Through the pleasure and the pain, this old yearning stays the same." So there's a protagonist here, and he's letting us know that that person is a seeker. We're going to be trying to find some form of truth. Track 2 starts off with a similar stanza. It's called Temperance, and it starts out with, "So seek and ye shall find what's before and what's behind the forest of your mind and all you think you know." So with this song, we're sort of drawing curtains a little bit. But there's also a subtlety to these lyrics, an undertone of we're all seeking the same thing, but maybe we're not seeking it in the right way. Maybe we're not looking with the right mind. And I'll revisit that in a minute. The other song I want to point out in this record is called Simple Care. It's track 7, and this is my favorite one. My favorite lyric on the whole record is, "To have a body is to die, to live at all is to wonder why, to seek the sun beyond the sky, to know the truth beyond the lie, to transcend the fear." So he's pointing out that to be given life is to wonder, is to seek, is to have the instinct to ask these questions that are in essence unanswerable. But I think what we're hearing in these lyrics is that the answer is in knowing which questions to ask. The answer is knowing how to seek, not what to seek. In other words, what you're looking for is what you're looking with. One of the great things that I think folk music can do is to serve as a medium through which to have these heady existential discussions. What is it that we all have in common? What is it that we all share? More often than not, this is done through stories, through folk tales. You know, you hear folk and you think oral tradition, you think storytelling. But folk music approached in this way, I think, serves its purpose in unifying people and saying we all have these questions, we are all seekers, we all have to reckon with the great mysteries in front of us, and we can seek answers to those mysteries, and we can find an answer or not. We can be vindicated in what we think is the answer or not. But sometimes when we have these existential questions and we're looking for a sense of purpose, we don't necessarily find an answer in the form of an end result. Sometimes the answer is you need to ask those same questions of other people. Sometimes the answer is we need to learn how to approach these mysteries together rather than act out of self-interest or rather than just search for vindication. And I don't think that Isaac ever really purports to have found an answer to any of these existential questions. I do think that what some of these lyrics suggest is that the search for meaning is more about the search than it is about the meaning. And I think there's something very valuable in learning how to be a seeker and how to think like a seeker, because without that state of mind, a record like this can't get made. And so it's about learning how to ask these questions and explore what these questions are without necessarily expecting an answer, but learning how to explore them in an artful way that can be shared with people, that can be shared in the form of a song, that can be shared in the form of a poem, And what's great about an album like this, a set of lyrics like this, is that even if there is no answer to be found to these existential questions, right? You still are putting the music out there into the world. You still are releasing an album of lyrics that are your search for truth laid bare for other people to consume, for other people to listen to and talk about and think about where they are in their own journey. And that, I think, is something really valuable, because that is one of the great ways that folk music can bring people together. Okay, that's it for today's review. Again, this is Isaac Hill's new album, Allegheny Elegies. I know on Bandcamp it's on the Hills and the Rivers page, so head over there, give it a download, stream it on Spotify, whichever you prefer to do. While you're there, check out some of the Hills and the Rivers older albums. It's well worth checking out. And until next time, I'm Joel Mungin. This has been Death to the Review. Thanks.